Yai da 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 da. Mi chamocha bailim Adonai. Mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh norat tehilot osef eleh malchutecha ra'uvanecha bokayam lifnei Moshe malchutecha ra'uvanecha bokayam lifnei Miriam Zeili Anu ve'ameru Adonai Yimloch Le'olam Le'olam Va'ed Yadadai Dai 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 Yadadai Dai Dai Yadadai Dai 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 Yada da 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 yada da 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 yada da 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 ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. I invite us into a moment where we can experience the power of unity and also solidarity and also solitude. That's one thing that I love about the way that we pray in Judaism. It's always a nuanced balance between the community and the individual. And so at its most extreme, the community can lead us to lose ourselves, can lead us to lose our focus and our purpose, our own spiritual journey. Yet on the other extreme, taken out of hand, the spiritual language of individual self-improvement can be taken to a place that is narcissistic and loses the beauty of community and the love of being with people who care about you. Those of you who know me a little and have listened to me for a little bit know which side of this spectrum I think our country generally falls on. And that's one reason that we are all here. It's an antidote. This is a reminder that actually showing up together is good and nourishing and holy and important. So even though so much of our country is not doing it, is not doing this, we are standing up for something, and probably many somethings. Tonight, as you know, we have a special guest. We have a special subject for our talk later in the service. And we have an opportunity for us to think about what we can do when we come together. So at the Amidah, we think about what we can do when we come together, and also what we need when we come into this space looking for our own individual spiritual nourishment. Both are true, both are holy. Page 164, please rise, if it's comfortable for you. 164. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avoteinu ve'Imoteinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'zocher chastei avot ve'imahot, u'mevii ge'ula livnei v'neihem, lema'an shemo be'ahava, melech ozer u'moshia u'magen. Baruch atah Adonai, magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. Page 168. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechaye hakol atarav lehoshia. Mashiv haruach umorid haga Hashem. Mechalkel chayim bechesed. Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim. Sohomech noflim verofei cholim. Umatir asurim. Umekayem emunato. Lishene afar, micha mocha baal gevurot, umido melach, melech meimit umechaye, umatzmiach Yeshua, v'ne'eman atal hachayot hakol. Baruch ata Adonai, mechaye hakol. Ata kadosh v'shimecha kadosh u'kedoshim b'chol yom yehallelu Selah. Baruch ata Adonai ha'el hakadosh. Take a moment now for private prayer, tefillah balachash, through page 180. Please take the time you need for your prayer, say what you feel you need to say, and have a seat when you're ready.
Ratzon imre fi, Yehu l'ratzon imre fi, V'egyon libi lefanecha, Adonai tzuri v'go'ali. Oh, may the words of my mouth, the meditations of my heart be acceptable before you, O God, my rock and my redeemer. Oseh shalom bimromah, Yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru Amen.
We pause for a moment to pray for all those in need of healing. This Misha Berach prayer is for all those in our community who need a little extra blessing from us tonight. They include our temple members, April Diamato, Norma Diamond, Josh Lipschitz, Mark Warner, Myra Josephson, Stacy Reed, and Scott Casper. And also our loved ones, Connie Ambrosino, Robert Shapiro, Anna Pakoch, Lily Haas, Phyllis Barenhouse, Mickey Bart, Jay Fliss, Sydney Scher, Mark Ostreicher, Bart Young, Matthew Pincus, Debbie Schnur, Joanne Crisulo, Linda Garmisa, Soraya Casey, John Van Steenbergen, Kyle Mullins, Keith Siegel, Mark Lynette, Arlene Weiler, Paul Frisman, Bruce Petroff, Shelley Koslow, Ronnie Lustig, Jim Solomon, Art Maisano, Tim Maurer, Carolyn Cooperman, Megan Long, Kathleen Long, Sharon Peck, Ben Peck, Martha and Mark Potter, Gloria Newell, Sabine Meyer, Carol Bartlett, Michael Murphy, Beth Zagoria, Edison Goff, Marcia Wasserman, Melissa Mihalko, Marnie Katz, Joel Katz, Benjamin Mayer, Ben Ruth, Ira Weiss, Dan McLaren, Deanna Rosenberg-Garabo. If there are others we should add to our prayers, please do share their names with us if you wish, or of course hold them in your hearts, and we'll know that they are held in our prayer too. I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Adela Shafir. Please. Ronnie Rabin. Al Masori. I invite us to turn back to that prayer sheet that you received as you came in. At the bottom of the page, we sing together, Misha Berach.
Misha Berach Avoteinu Avraham, Yitzchak, veYaakov. Misha Berach Imoteinu Sarah, Rivka, Leah, v'Rachel. May the one who blessed our mothers, may the one who blessed our fathers, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, and bless us as well. Bless us with the power of your healing. Bless us with the power of your hope. May our hearts be filled with understanding and strengthened by the power of your love. Misha Berach Notenu Avraham, Yitzchak, veYaakov. Misha Berach Imotenu Sarah, Rivka, Leah, v'Rachel. May the one who blessed our mothers, may the one who blessed our fathers, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, and bless us as well.
As I mentioned a moment ago, we have a very special guest tonight. His name is Bennett Pudlin, and he's here on behalf of Madison's Affordable Housing Committee to share some important information with us. He's here to answer some questions. He's here because he's dedicated a considerable amount of volunteer time to a cause that's very important. And as I was thinking about tonight, I was remembering my own journey finding a house here on the shoreline. I'm not a Madison resident, I am a Guilfordite, and I realize that Guilford maybe has a little bit of a different story in this conversation than Madison does. But nevertheless, I remember the feeling of looking for a first house. Maybe you do too. Do me a favor, turn with me back in the prayer book to page 150. Okay, so this is the prayer Ahavat Olam. It's part of a prayer sequence before the Shema that there's a morning part and an evening part. This is the evening part. The morning part is Ahava Rabbah, a great love. The evening part is Ahavat Olam, an eternal love. They both have a similar theme, which is that one way God shows love to the people of Israel is through Torah. Okay, and what is Torah? Well, we can read here, Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amcha Ahavta. God, a great love, an eternal love, you have given to the whole household of Israel. Torah umitzvot, instruction and commandment. Chukim umishpatim, laws and statutes. Otanu limadata, you taught us. Laws and statutes. I know to modern ears that doesn't sound like very romantic language before Valentine's Day. But this is the way that the ancient rabbis understood a relationship with God. It was one of love, and a deep love, not simply a romantic love, but a deep and abiding love expressed through this gift of laws, of justice, of covenant. And so that's actually this week's Torah portion, is mishpatim. Mishpatim is that same word that we just read on the third line there. Chukim umishpatim, statutes. But it also has the word mishpat itself actually has the sense of justice. Frequently it's paired in the Hebrew Bible with the word tzedek. You all know the word tzedek, right? Tzedek or tzedakah, same word, means justice, righteousness. So there is this sense, even within the language, that the laws are designed to get us to a just place. When I was looking for my first house, the laws were changing. You remember the letter that you used to be able to write to the homeowner about how you were the perfect pick for that house, and if they sold it to you, you would take such great care of it and walk it every day. This is where I'm seeing if you're actually listening. Okay, that was for the kids in the back who are not listening. That's okay, it's a long service at the end of a long week. Okay. So anyway, that was becoming a thing of the past. We were no longer allowed to do that, because as it turned out, after looking at the history of the way that this sort of thing worked, it turns out that people tended to sell people houses who made a connection and relationship this way to people who were pretty much like them in most meaningful respects. Not always, but frequently it actually created more of the same culture around who could and couldn't live in a particular place. And I remember feeling kind of annoyed about this because we were looking for a house in 2021 at the peak of the market. Interest rates were through the basement, so was inventory. It was an impossible time to find a house. Susan and I really didn't think we would find a house. And then one of the houses that we happened to see got snapped up, and we thought, oh darn, we thought maybe that's the one. And during the middle of a snowstorm in February of that year, it came back on the market like a miracle. And I just happened to notice, but I was going to go into a few hours of teaching. So Susan called a realtor and said, do we think we can see it? What's going on? And she said, I don't know, it's a snowstorm, but you should come out and see it. And so she did, and ultimately, I'll spare you all of the details, but ultimately we ended up getting it, and we got really lucky. But I'll tell you something, friends. We talked to a lot of people in our situation, in our state, even people who had saved up a lot over years for a down payment, who were ready to buy a house and did not get a house, or did not get a very good house. And one of the things is that there's just not enough houses. There's just not enough housing. There's not enough. We haven't built enough over the last many decades, right, to support the needs of the community and the desire. But the other thing that I noticed during that experience is I felt really like an outsider or a stranger. Even though many decades ago, our forebears, the TBT pioneers, were able to move here eventually after the gentlemen's agreements, maybe sometimes during the gentlemen's agreements, as a little bit of a chutzpahdik planting of a flag and saying we can be here too. I'm curious to hear some of those stories too, by the way, which I don't know as well. But I mean, just the fact that we can be here as a Jewish community is really amazing, and is so much not the case for the majority of American Jewish history. The idea of being allowed to live relatively comfortably and safely in a society that is dominantly not Jewish is such a unique thing in all of Jewish history. And even in the story of America, it's relatively recent, right? It's really only in the 1940s that Jews start making some big progress in the Connecticut coast. So that's all to say. It made me think of Parshat Mishpatim because Parshat Mishpatim has a lot of laws in it. Okay, so last week we read all the 10 Commandments. This week, we get all the rest of the commandments, or a lot more of them. And one of the things that we read in the middle of a section that's about interpersonal and ethical laws is the very famous, you should not treat the stranger oppressively because you too were strangers in the land of Egypt, right? We read it like 36 times, something like this, within the Hebrew Bible. And it's just so funny to me that appears in a section that's called laws. That's a law? It's a law that we have to put ourselves in other people's shoes and remember our own experience. So for me, on this night, this is the beginning of a conversation that I hope will lead us to follow that mishpat, to follow that commandment. And so I'm very happy to invite Bennett Pudlin up to our bima. He's going to share a few words, and then we'll have an opportunity to talk with him after the service, too.
Thank you very much. Thank you, and Shabbat Shalom. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you here tonight. Actually, I've come not to speak, but to listen. But Rabbi asked me to do a few minutes to kind of set the stage for a conversation that might take place after services with anyone who's interested. And if not tonight, there will be many other occasions, I promise. So I am with the new Madison Affordable Housing Committee. We were formed about a year ago to implement Madison's affordable housing plan that was adopted back in 2022 by the Board of Selectmen and submitted to the state of Connecticut on time, unlike most of the plans. There are many towns that still haven't submitted theirs. It was due in June. And the plan, we've been blessing our forefathers and foremothers here. Have to give credit to your past president, Sarah, who led the team that drafted that wonderful plan that is to guide us into the future and arguably a better and more just future for everyone, including those of us who already are fortunate enough to live here. And speaking of our ancestors, I moved here a little over 15 years ago, and at that time there was one alderman who was the lone voice talking about affordable housing. And you could guess who that is. That's your own Al Goldberg. And a mere 11 or 12 years later, it morphed into this great plan. So our job, now that the hard work of writing the plan is done, is to help the town figure out how to implement it. And our committee has spent the last year really just coming up to speed, informing ourselves, and listening to anyone who'll talk to us. We stand on the street corner. We beg for people to give us a moment of their time. Because we want to understand people's experiences with housing, as the rabbi just shared with you. Most people don't think about the affordability of housing unless they had a personal connection. And even then, they don't often recognize the burden that housing imposes on a huge percentage of the population. I don't want to bury you with facts tonight, but there are a couple that you need to know, and we'll get to those in a bit. But a large part of our community is what the bureaucrats call housing burdened, which is to say they have to spend more than 30% of their income on their shelter costs. And we've had a consensus in this country for about 50 years almost now that if you do that, you don't have enough money left for all the other things that sustain a decent life, like food and medicine and getting your kids to school, that sort of thing. Before I go on, Rabbi asked me to just say a little bit about myself. As I said, I'm a newcomer here, not quite 16 years. I grew up in New Britain, Connecticut, for those of you who don't know. Used to be a marvelous industrial town, the hardware capital of the world during World War II, and a strong Union town. I was born into a very radical family and social network. Bar mitzvahed at the long-defunct Temple B'nai Yisrael, a conservative shul. Currently not affiliated, but my children were bar and bat mitzvahed at Hillel at Yale. It seems so long ago. And I've been involved in housing since the earliest days of my professional career. I was actually, as a legal intern and New Haven legal assistance, I did tenant organizing in the housing projects of New Haven, those now fortunately long gone Soviet-era high-rise apartment buildings. And as a new attorney, I did housing law and community organizing in the lower Naugatuck Valley. So it's really great. Oh, and I should say, another amazing coincidence, New Haven Legal Assistance, where I started as a lawyer, was also the home of your past president for a couple of years, before she moved on to even more important work. So I am very grateful for have the chance through this new committee to come back to what was my first real political and community engagement. So I want to talk a little bit about what we're aiming for. Our charge as a committee is affordable housing, but it didn't take us long to realize that Madison needs housing for all. We have a total lack of diversity of housing types, and certainly of affordable housing, but we need housing for all family sizes, all age levels, and all income levels. And state policy and law acknowledges that. Connecticut officially says it needs 89,000 affordable housing units. Advocates say that's more like 140,000 we need. Seems almost an impossible task given the glacial rate at which anything gets built that's near affordable here. Our town adopted, and I know there's some of you who are not from Madison, so excuse me, I know your town has as well, if you're from Guilford. You're probably several decades ahead of us in this work. Our town has adopted the affordable housing plan in the new strategic plan for the town, and our Planning and Zoning Commission, which is obligated by law to update the Plan of Conservation and Development every 10 years, is in the process of doing that, and every draft that they've put out so far incorporates also the affordable housing plan. So I think the stars are getting aligned and the planets, and that in fact this might be the time when something important can happen here in Madison. A little bit about the need. I mentioned that 37% of the population, that's of both renters and homeowners, is considered housing burdened. As you can imagine, the renters about twice as burdened as the homeowners, but still a goodly number of homeowners. In addition to that, we got our hands on the job classification and payroll for all the town and Board of Ed employees, and we were kind of shocked to discover that 76% of all employees qualify for affordable housing under the state standard, which is to say they have, if they're a single income earning family, that's under $89,500 a year. So 3/4 of the people we depend on to keep this place running qualify for affordable housing. And that number includes, I want to make sure I get this right, and by the way, 30% of their qualifying income would be $2,328 a month for shelter. That's considered affordable housing here. You can imagine we're a very well-off community, and home prices are very high, rental prices are very high. Even that level is unattainable in the market. So the 76% of town employees that qualify for affordable housing, it includes 74% of all our public safety personnel. And it includes 53% of all the classroom teachers. And if you think about not town employees, the rest of the folks who keep this community running, the service workers, the folks downtown, right? Nonprofit employees, for-profit employees. If they're earning 3 times the Connecticut minimum wage, which is about $15.50 an hour, they would still qualify for affordable housing, given the cost of this area to live. So we talk about, Rabbi talked about the other, right? We're the other. The people in our community that we want very much to be engaged, right? The folks who protect us, who teach our children, we want them to be in this community, be able to afford to be in this community. Most of them can't. Most of them can't. So affordable housing, as the rabbi, I think, made clear, is a commandment. And it's certainly a social justice issue. But we've come to understand that it impacts our community in so many other ways. So we talked about the essential workers we depend on not being able to find a home here. We have volunteers. This town, and I imagine Guilford as well, runs on volunteers. The fire department, right? The service organizations, the sports clubs. All of them depend on new people, especially the fire department, coming in and living in this town and being able to replenish their ranks as people age out. We are an aging community, and more so, we're an aging state, and the state is aging faster than the rest of the country, and Madison's aging faster than the state. And more people are left in the family home with no children and sometimes no spouse, and becomes impossible to maintain the home, and they have nowhere to go in this town. Terrible lack of housing for the elderly, and not just the poor elderly. We hear from folks at all income levels that once they're empty nesters, it might be time to downsize and let some family have this large home that they no longer need. But there aren't good options for that. Our sense is that anything we do in Madison to improve the supply and variety and affordability of housing is going to impact affordability as well, but that we have to take specific steps in order to make housing available to those who can't afford the very, very high prices that property here commands. I think change is coming, not just to Madison, but to the whole state. I think it's going to take a while, and we probably won't get any really important legislation this year out of the legislature, because it's going to be an election year, and no one has the courage to do the right thing in an election year, but maybe the year after. Town policy, as I said, requires that we take this action. And I won't get into the details, but state law provides that if a town doesn't have at least 10% of its housing stock considered affordable under the state standard, that if developers want to come in and build multifamily developments, the town essentially has very little opportunity to prevent that unless the town can sustain the burden of proving that the proposed development would jeopardize health or safety, virtually nothing else in the zoning regs would be considered. And the burden is on the town if the developer wants to go to court. Developers typically win these cases because it's a very high standard to meet. We're not interested in that. I think that, and I don't think many developers would want to do that, but there have been numerous instances very, very nearby us where developers have come in with plans that towns have wanted to reject or tried to reject, and they've not been able to. And so we would much rather implement our affordable housing plan with input from the entire community so that we can meet our obligation in a way that really suits our needs and is responsive to the voice of the community. And that's basically why I'm here and why we've been going to other congregations and other community groups seeking input. I hope that some of you will be able to stick around after services. I'll be here as long as people would like to talk, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. So, oh yes.
And if they want to sign up.
Yes, please. Yeah. Yep. Rabbi reminds me there will be a community meeting sponsored jointly by the Affordable Housing Committee, the Board of Selectmen, and the Planning and Zoning Commission. The last day of the month, which is February 29th at 6 o'clock. It'll be in the town campus for those who come live, but it'll also be a hybrid, so it'll be available through Zoom. We will get a flyer out with the details for the Zoom, and the rabbis offered to publicize that to you. And we will have a sign-up list afterwards. For those of you who would be willing to give us your email address, we promise not to sell it, but we will use it to keep you informed on a regular basis of our work and of opportunities to have further input. So again, thank you very much.
I'm sure you all have a lot of questions, and you can receive a little bit of more information. You know, the details and the PowerPoint that he didn't, go into in this brief foray will be yours as you leave. So please do spend a minute or two greeting our guest and asking any questions that you have. After services, we'll have, of course, a little kiddush together in the social hall. And thank you, Bennett, for being with us tonight. Our service concludes beginning on page 586. Aleinu l'shabech, please rise. Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים HaKadosh Baruch Hu, page 591. V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo Ushemo echad. Please have a seat, everybody. יש כוכבים שאורם מגיע ארצה רק כאשר הם עצמם עבדו ואינם. יש אנשים שזיו זכרם מאיר כאשר הם עצמם אינם עוד בתוכנו. אורות אלה המפקיקים בחשכת הליל הם שמראים לאדם את הדרך. There are stars up above, so far away we only see their light, long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us. As we live our days, these are the ways we remember. Tonight, we're remembering many loved ones in the period of Shiva or Shloshim, or the period of Yortzeit. If you're here for a bereavement and you wish to be recognized, when I read the name of your loved one, I invite you to please rise and stay standing. We remember tonight Lucille Alderman, mother of Lori Walker and Ed. Ruth Beitel, mother of Jennifer Friedman and Alan. And Klaus Epler, father of Amy Epler-Epstein and Steve. We also, of course, are thinking tonight of the Gammerman family. They're still in Aninut. But certainly Martha and her daughters are in our thoughts tonight. If you're joining us online, we're certainly thinking of you all as they prepare to say farewell to their beloved Ken. If you're observing Yartzeit tonight, I invite you to please rise as I read the name of your loved one, including Valmore T. Langevin, Ian Ross Russell, Annie Toback, William Goldberg, Betty Langer, Lee Lipman, Helen Goodkind, Harriet Spiegelman, Isaac Stoller, Rebecca Tessler, Arnold Winnecourt, Sally Aaronworth, Martha Feingold, Paula Marenberg, Richard Joseph Ottenheimer, Karen Flatley, and Carl Schlan. If anyone else is in a period of mourning for an immediate loved one at this time, I invite you to please rise. Now we can all rise in the context of our community and the solidarity and embrace of comfort to all of the bereaved as we recite these hallowed words. Mourner's Kaddish is on page 598, 598. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divrach irutei v'amlich mochutei, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi shmei rabbah mevurach le'alam u'le'almei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yithalal shmei dekudesha b'richu, Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush bechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shalama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. May the source of harmony on high bring peace to us, comfort to all the bereaved, as together we say, Amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Please have a seat, everybody. Andrea San Marco is going to come forward now to greet us on behalf of our board. Andrea and Ron get a special shout out because tonight they're not just the greeters, they're also the custodians. So thank you for just lending a hand as this congregation is wont to do when the hour demands.
Shabbat Shalom. A warm welcome to all guests here with us tonight. My name is Andrea San Marco and I am the Secretary of the Executive Committee. Join us tomorrow at 9 a.m. for Torah study led by Rabbi Moss. The link is in your email. On Thursday, February 15th, the TBT Book Club will meet on Zoom at 7:30 to discuss Forest Dark by Nicole Krauss. Kol Ami will host its movie night for Shanghai Ghetto on February 21st at 7:30 p.m. on Zoom in preparation for the March 3rd joint program with the Jewish Federation of Greater New Haven, Surviving the Holocaust, with Gita Morris Martin and Monica White. On February 21st, TBT will host the first of a series of joint study sessions of sacred texts with the First Congregational Church of Madison at 10 a.m. Email Lydia Devlin in the office to sign up for this 4-week series. On February 25th, TBT will host Gail Schlossberg, the CEO of JCC in New Haven, at noon for an intimate and interactive conversation together with Rabbi Moss following the Israel Reading Group discussion. For the Israel Reading Group, please remember to register for the class with the office to receive emails and updates. We have even more events coming in March, including Eliana Light as our musician in residence for our Solidica Music Weekend, and a group field trip as TBT goes to church. Stay tuned. Again, Shabbat Shalom.
Yes, I am very excited about TBT coming to church and church coming to TBT. We're doing a lot of very nice collaboration, starting with that class that Andrea mentioned at the end of the month, and also their choir and parishioners will be coming here for services March 8th, and we'll be going to their service on March 10th, and you'll get some, oh, that reminds me, I forgot to ask Reverend Vetter to give the sermon that night. He might have a surprise. Todd, if you're watching this, you're preaching that night, please, thank you. It's going to be a meaningful spring of a lot of great events, and more exciting things to be mentioned soon, too. Purim and Pesach is just around the corner. I love this time of year. Lots of good things happening. All right, our closing song is going to be Oseh Shalom. I don't know if we've ever sung this melody, but it's in my head, so we're going to sing it. Oseh Shalom, Shalom bimromav, Hu yaseh Shalom. Oseh Shalom, Shalom bimromav, Hu yaseh Shalom. Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imeru Amen. Oseh Shalom, Shalom bimromav, Yaseh Shalom. You can clap your hands. Oseh Shalom, Shalom bimromav, Yaseh. We'll learn 2 and 4 eventually. Still working on it. Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imeru Amen. Oseh Shalom, Shalom bimromav, Yaseh Shalom. Oseh Shalom, Shalom bimromav, Yaseh Shalom. All right, everybody. Well, I hope that you will join us to make Kiddush right next door. I promise the schmoozing is equally good in the social hall. So let's all proceed straight to there. We'll schmooze. Look for my little blue folder if you want to sign up to get updates for affordable housing matters. And Shabbat Shalom.